I was drowning in guest messages. Every night, another last minute request. Every morning, another crisis. I built this Airbnb business for freedom, but instead, I was its full-time employee.
And I was its second one.
Then we tried something crazy. We handed all of our Airbnb management over to a virtual assistant. No more midnight texts, no more scrambling to respond, just total freedom. But what happened next? It was not what we expected. Some Airbnb hosts swear by virtual assistants, while others say that they might ruin everything. So we put it to the test. We gave our VA full control of our guest messaging, our cleaning, and our maintenance. So the question is, did it free us from Airbnb headaches forever, or did it turn into a complete disaster? I guess we'll find out.
We are the Real Estate Robinsons.
Hey guys, if this is your first time here, I'm Sarah.
I'm Tony.
And we're real estate investors who quit our day jobs by investing in Airbnbs, and we're here to show you how you can do the same.
Today, we're sharing exactly what happened when we let a virtual assistant take a control over a huge part of our Airbnb business. Now that's the good, the bad, and the downright shocking. And if you stick around until the end, we'll even give you a massive shortcut that you can use so you can do this the right way and avoid the mistakes that we made.
Why are we sharing this? Well, managing your Airbnb can be kind of brutal at times, and it can literally feel like you're running a 24/7 business call center. What's the Wi-Fi password? Can I check in early? Is the hot tub working? Can I bring my dog? Does it rain there? Can I check in early? Can I bring 5 people instead of 4? Can I get married in your backyard? How many forks do you have? What's the exact make and model of your coffee maker? It's a lot of the same things over and over and over again. And if you're an Airbnb host, you know the struggle. I know you do.
Before hiring our first VAs, we were managing 15 Airbnbs, and we kind of hit our limit, right? We knew that we needed some help. And honestly, we didn't want just someone to answer messages, but someone who could help with everything. Guest messaging, cleaning, maintenance, supplies, admin work, and someone who could really solely focus on helping us with our portfolio. And a VA, a virtual assistant, checked that box the best. So in this video, we're going to cover 4 things. First, we'll share where to find your VA, then how to create an effective job posting, then we'll talk about our epic failures onboarding our first VAs and how we finally reached a turning point, and then we'll end with whether or not we think hiring VAs makes sense for you.
So, was hiring a VA our biggest win or our biggest L? Let's see. Before we go into all the pieces of our hiring process, we want to give you the 30,000-foot view. You can think of our hiring process like a funnel. We get a lot of people who come into the top of the funnel, and then as we progress through the hiring process, we filter out more and more and more people. And by the time we get to the end, we can go from several hundred candidates down to only making offers to just a few people.
So even if you get hundreds of applicants, you're not literally going to review or interview all of those people. So the first question is, where do you even find a great VA for your Airbnb? And kind of here's what we found. There were 3 best places to go for your first Airbnb VA. First is Upwork. It's one of the largest marketplaces in the world to find freelancers. You post your job and within hours, sometimes minutes, you've got applicants rolling in. The best part is that you can filter by experience, by location, by ratings, but here's the problem. You'll get a mix of rock stars and I guess whatever the opposite of a rock star is, right?
Option 2, onlinejobs.ph. This site is a hidden gem for finding full-time dedicated VAs, especially from the Philippines, where the work ethic and English skills are top-notch.
One of the biggest reasons we love hiring for the Philippines is that Airbnb and Vrbo have a strong presence there already. So we found VAs who have worked for Airbnb directly. That means less training, faster results.
And they already know the business. And option 3 is VA staffing agencies. Now, this is a game changer. Instead of gambling on a random freelancer VA, you can hire a company to do all the work for you. A good VA staffing agency will take the entire process that we're going to walk you through in this video and make it 100% automated so you can get a great candidate without lifting a single finger. That sounds like a dream.
And you walk away with a VA who's already trained, experienced, and ready to hit the ground running on day one. Now, Sarah and I, we've actually launched our own Airbnb staffing service. We handle everything from recruiting to training, so you get a rockstar VA. that's fully ready to manage your Airbnb portfolio. So if you want the shortcut to hiring a good Airbnb virtual assistant, just head over to the link in the description of this video.
We got you. So those are the options you can use to source a good VA. Now, hiring our first VA almost ended in complete disaster. We messed up in every single way possible. We'll get to that shortly, but first let's talk about the ins and outs of creating a really good job posting.
All right, so we covered a few solid platforms to hire your VA, but here's the thing, posting the job is easy, right? But getting the right applicants, that takes a little bit more skill. If your job post sucks, you'll end up with candidates who kind of suck, right? So here's exactly how we structured our job posts to attract the best Airbnb VAs.
Step number 1, your job title needs to be crystal clear. Something like virtual assistant needed is way too vague. So instead, go with something like Airbnb virtual assistant, guest messaging and operations, full-time, long-term. This tells the applicant exactly what the job is about and filters out people looking for like random quick VA gigs.
Now, the second step is your actual job description, and we keep ours pretty structured and easy to scan. So here's what we typically like to include. First are just the basic responsibilities, right? Respond to guest messages within X minutes, this amount of availability. They handle bookings and modifications and cancellations, coordinating with cleaners and maintenance, tracking inventory, making sure the supplies are restocked, escalating major guest issues to me when necessary. Doing this makes it clear what they're signing up for, and there's really no surprises.
Now here's where you really filter the best from the rest. In our job post, we require fluent English and strong writing skills. No broken English messages to guests are allowed in our business. At least 1 year of Airbnb or hospitality experience. Fast response times, we literally put must reply to guests within 5 minutes. Familiarity with property management systems or PMSs like Hospitable or Guesty or Hostfully. Experience handling guest disputes, refunds, and reviews. And we made it very, very clear that we're looking for someone with experience, not someone that we have to train from scratch.
Now, one caveat here, we actually have hired people who didn't have experience specific to Airbnb, but only if they were like really, really impressive. And actually, one of our VA trainers, probably one of our best VAs, was hired with no previous experience in this field, but she was so impressive during the interview process, and I was super confident that she had all the right soft skills and character traits to do well, and we were totally right on that. So it's not 1000% required, but it is very, 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 very helpful. All right, the next step is the tools, right? So since our VA would be running a big chunk of our business, ideally we want them to be comfortable with the tools that we already use. So here's what we include in that job posting. The Airbnb and Vrbo platforms, obviously, Slack for team communication, Google Drive and Google Sheets for tracking operations, Loom, being able to send me video updates when we need it, and then really just any other tech or software that you feel that you'll be using in your business. Google Voice is another one as well.
And step 5 is adding a hiring filter, or what we like to call the secret test. Even with a great job post, you'll still get a ton of crappy applicants who just copy and paste their resume and spam apply to as many jobs as they can. So you have to incorporate some sort of filter to quickly weed out those candidates. Otherwise, you'll just end up spending way too much time sifting through people that have no business even applying for that job, and it'll drive you crazy.
Side note, this is actually another reason why we really like onlinejobs.ph. They have something called apply points. Basically, applicants get a fixed number of these points daily that they can use to apply for jobs. The smallest amount that they can use is 1. And honestly, I don't even know if there's like an upper limit. So basically, if someone is just mass applying for a bunch of jobs they don't actually care about, they'll use 1 apply point. But if they're super serious about the job, they might apply with 20 points or 50 points or 100 points. It won't make or break a hire for me, but it is just kind of helpful to see.
But anyway, here is our hiring filter. We always include a secret instruction somewhere inside of the job post. So as an example, we ask all of our candidates to format the title of their application submission in a very specific and dramatic manner. We also ask them to include a specific phrase, like something they'd never write on accident, like purple elephant. And it's important to bury this somewhere in the middle of the application. So don't put it right at the top or the bottom, because either spot is just super easy to scan.
And guess what? 50% of applicants don't follow that simple instruction, which instantly eliminates all those people. Like, we literally do not even open their application if it's not formatted the way that we requested. If someone can't follow a basic direction to apply for a job, I doubt they'll have all to follow complicated directions once they get the job.
Last thing, we also always include the pay. You can decide on what you want to pay, but anything below $3 will be really tough to find a good candidate.
And that's really it for the job post, right? Within 24 hours, you'll have a flood of good applicants. But again, only a handful that actually stand out. But just because someone looks good on paper doesn't mean that they'll actually be a great fit, right? Which is why the next part is the interview process. And trust us, this is where things get really interesting.
So far it sounds like a solid plan, right? Well, things didn't go as smoothly as we expected.
Now, I know we're discussing VAs, and we're going to get back to that in just a moment, but we wanted to touch on something that's super important that doesn't get discussed enough. And honestly, it's something that a lot of new investors overlook. Now, guys, you can have the perfect property, you can have the perfect VA, you can have the perfect market, perfect setup. But if your financing sucks, the whole deal can fall apart. We actually had a property that we were under contract to buy. And 10 days before closing, our lender came to us and told us that they wouldn't be able to fund the loan. So we had 10 days to figure out how to finance this thing, or else we were going to lose the deal, lose our earnest money deposit. So we started asking around, and we got introduced to a lender who said they could close that deal within 10 days.
And that one connection ended up changing literally, you guys, everything for us. Not only did that lender save the day on that first deal, but they ended up funding almost our entire future deals too. And that lender was Blueprint Home Loans. Blueprint is not your average lender. They're built to work with real estate investors. And we've worked with plenty of lenders over the years who were transactional at best. The team at Blueprint, though, they actually give a shit about helping you succeed.
Now, let us break down why that matters. Now, first off, speed, right? We all know how competitive the Airbnb space is, especially, in a hot market. You need to be ready to move fast. And Blueprint, they have super quick pre-approvals. They're responsive on their questions, and the process doesn't leave you guessing. I've had other lenders where, we're calling them 14 times a day just to get an update. But with Blueprint, it actually felt like there's a team behind us.
100%. Second, creative deal structuring. When you're scaling a portfolio like ours, not every deal fits inside of this cookie cutter lending box. But Blueprint has helped us navigate second home loans, investment loans, and more nuanced products that gave us way more flexibility. And they helped us understand the pros and cons of each of them instead of just throwing us a rate sheet and saying, here, this is the best option, pick this one.
Now, this can truly be the difference in closing on a deal or losing one, right? You want to work with lenders who can provide you with more options.
Third, they get real estate investors. This is a big one for us. A lot of lenders just don't understand the mindset of an investor, but Blueprint knew what we were trying to build, and they structured things to help us really scale, not just close one deal.
They knew we weren't trying to just buy one cap and call it a day, right? We were building a business, a brand, a future, and they leaned in to help us do that. So if you're someone who's still trying to get your first deal done, or maybe you're trying to go from one deal to deal number 10, I can't stress this enough. You need the right lender in your corner. A good lender will help you close a deal, but a great lender, they'll help you build an empire.
And for us, Blueprint Home Loans has been that great lender. If you want to connect with the team at Blueprint, head over to therealestaterobinsons.com/lending, and the team at Blueprint will help you out.
All right, let's get back to the VAs. So after all of our searching, going through our super rigorous interview process for finding the best candidates, we found a couple of rock star VAs, right? Again, total game changer in finding these folks. But hiring a good VA is just the first domino to fall. The real work starts with training them to actually do the job well. And let me tell you, the first couple of weeks we had with our VA, it was kind of a show.
Today, we have a super robust process for onboarding and training our VAs. There's an onboarding plan, a checklist, and we generally know all the things we want to hit. But when we first hired a VA, we actually hired 3 at once, and we had zero idea on what the heck we were doing here. And it made it very hard for everyone. It was hard for them because they didn't have an actual structure to their training. And it was very hard for us because we felt like we were investing so much time into them that we started asking ourselves, would it just be faster if we just went back to doing it ourselves? Because what are we doing here?
Now, today, our VAs handle 99% of our guest communication. They take care of all of our cleaning, all of our maintenance, all of our inventory. But it took time to get there.
Yeah.
So here's what our process for training looks like now.
First, we give them access to all of our essential software. So think things like Slack, all of our emails, Google Voice, our PMS, our Amazon account. They need access to everything before you can train them.
Next, give them as much information as you can about your properties. That's what we do, right? They go through our listings on Airbnb. They read through our digital guidebooks. They watch the property walkthrough videos we've created for all of our properties. This gives them a really good understanding of how the properties look and feel. Remember, they'll be managing these properties from the other side of the world potentially, so they'll need all the info they can get about how your properties are set up.
Once we cover the property specific things, then we train them up on our standard operating procedures, or SOPs for short. Our SOPs are kind of like the Bible for how we manage our Airbnbs.
The SOP can't cover every possible scenario, but it gives them enough guidance to cover most situations. But more importantly, the SOP trains them on how to think the way that we want them to think.
Once we've started the SOP training, then we actually get them handling the Airbnb inbox and communicating with guests.
Now, one big thing here, once you hand over guest communication, you need to frequently review your VA's responses to make sure you're giving them feedback on their responses and how they maybe should have handled those situations differently. The VA will not be perfect when you first hire them. And honestly, there'll probably be a lot of situations where you're like, I don't know if I would have said it that way. But you've got to muscle through those growing pains, give them the space to fail just a little bit. Because if you never give them the freedom to think for themselves, they'll never reach their full potential. And instead of having a team of VAs who can run your business for you, you have a team of VAs who drain your time because they're coming to you for every single issue that pops up.
Very well said. And how do we know that? Because again, we've said this over and over, we made that same mistake. Our VAs used to come to us, and literally me, probably out of all of us, with every single issue. What do you think we should do? How should I respond? What should I do next? And we almost got annoyed, but then we realized we were the problem. We were handicapping our VAs by always giving them the exact answer to every challenge that they came across and brought to our attention. So we shifted our approach. And when our VAs would come to us with questions, we'd say things like, what do you think we should do here? What options do we have? And which do you recommend we do? What does our SOP say here? And then guess what happened? The more we pushed back, the smarter they got, the more confident they got. Now, problems get solved before I even hear about them. So that was a big life-changing moment.
Now, if you can stick it out, go through those growing pains, things will be much, much better on the other side. At this point, I believe our VAs are better than us in a lot of ways, right? Sure. Like, for example, Sarah recently gave birth to our newest baby girl. Yay. And naturally, like most parents of new babies, we wanted to get to know this new baby. We wanted to bond with
Who the heck are you, little girl?
But when you're an entrepreneur, you can't necessarily like turn it off, right? There's no paternity leave for self-employed people. But we got to do just that, right? Mm-hmm. After weeks of being almost completely checked out of our business, we woke up, checked our Airbnb inbox, and there was nothing. No unresolved issues, no missed messages, no fires that were actively burning. It's like our inbox had just managed itself. And that's only because our VAs were handling things faster and better than we ever could have ourselves while juggling sleepless nights with a new baby. They stayed on top of everything.
Response times to our guests were 2 minutes or less. They solved issues on their own. Okay, let me give you a specific example. A guest complained about a minor issue, a Wi-Fi outage that lasted 30 minutes. Now, Wi-Fi outages are not in our control, right? We have satellite internet at some of our properties, and sometimes it goes out. You'd assume that an angry remote worker with no Wi-Fi would have made my VAs panic and maybe offered a partial refund just to keep them happy. But my VA didn't stress, and instead they responded with, "Hey, John Doe, we completely understand how important strong Wi-Fi is, and we're really sorry for the temporary issue and appreciate your patience. We're in contact with the internet provider to try and find a solution for you. As a thank you, we'd love to offer you a free late checkout tomorrow so you can enjoy the property a little longer." Boom! Guest was thrilled. No refund was given. And again, we were given a 5-star review from this guest. My VA not only saved me money, but also kept this guest happy. This is what happens when you hire the right person, give them the right training, and then give them the freedom to make mistakes and grow.
And if you can commit to doing that, something crazy will happen. You'll actually be able to experience the time freedom you were hoping for when you started investing in Airbnb. I mean, there's a good chance if you're watching this video, what interested you in Airbnb investing was the ability to generate cash flow, which at some point will hopefully give you the option of living a more flexible lifestyle. But if you scale your portfolio without building the right support, like the support the VAs offer, you're just trading one job for another.
But before we keep moving, we'd really appreciate if you guys could give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications. Every new subscriber really does mean so much to us, guys. We have a goal of getting 100,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe and turn on those notifications.
So now the million-dollar question, is hiring a VA actually worth it? Did handing over our Airbnb inbox and our cleaning and our maintenance to a virtual assistant actually make our lives easier, or did it turn into a disaster? Well, let's break it down. First, let's talk about what changed in our business.
Before hiring a VA, because of the size of our portfolio, we spent a lot of time responding to messages, coordinating check-ins, and handling last-minute guest requests. We could have 15 check-ins in one day, so there was just always something going on. But after hiring our VAs, here's what changed.
First, we saved a ton of time. We don't respond to guest messages. We don't call handyman when things break. We don't order supplies on Amazon. We don't call Airbnb to request refunds. We meet with our VAs several times a week to give them the support. We're in Slack so they can reach out to us as needed, and we can focus on bigger projects as needed. We've literally gotten back hours a day, hours a week.
Second, our guests get faster response times. Again, our VAs reply to guests within 2 minutes or less, way faster than we ever did. That's our expectation of them. And third, we've actually stayed pretty consistent with our guest ratings. Because our VAs are on top of everything, guests have never really felt a long-term impact of the VAs responding instead of us.
Basically, our VA didn't just replace us. They did our job better and freed up our time to focus on the things that we want to focus on, which are growing the business and spending more time with each other, with our kids.
Yeah.
But like we said earlier, it hasn't been perfect either. So here are kind of the honest pros and cons of using a VA in your Airbnb business. So first, the pros.
Frees up your time. No more late night guest messages.
It improves your response time, right? Which leads to maybe better rankings and better reviews.
It boosts guest satisfaction. More 5-star reviews equal more bookings.
You can handle guest issues quickly and professionally.
And the cons, training takes time. Expect at least 90 days to fully ramp up your VA.
There's still some oversight that's needed. You can't just completely disappear.
Finding the right VA is crucial. A bad hire can make things worse, actually.
So, would we do it again?
Yes.
You know, we started this business for freedom, but for years we were stuck in the weeds, drowning in messages. Hiring a VA didn't just save us time, it really gave us our life back. And if you want that too, the choice is yours. But it only works if you do it right. If you hire the wrong person, if you don't train them properly, or you expect them to read your mind, it's just not gonna work.
Now, you can take what you learned in this video to go out and find your own Airbnb VA. And our honest hope is that what we gave you is enough for you to confidently do just that.
But we also know that some of you either don't have the time or the desire to implement everything we just talked about. And if that's true, and you want a shortcut to finding a good Airbnb virtual assistant, then our team would love to chat with you about our done-for-you Airbnb virtual assistant staffing service. It's a mouthful, but basically we're gonna find a VA for you, right? We handle 100% of the recruiting and the training. Like we literally train them by inserting them into our Airbnb business, and then we hand them off to you fully trained, ready to go.
Now, because we do put a lot of time and effort into recruiting the very best candidates and training them up correctly, there's a limit to how many clients we can take on. Like there's only so many people we can do this for. So if you're actually serious about getting some help, head over to the link in the description of this video and book a free call with our team to learn more.
Now, before we go, please connect with us on Instagram. I'm at Tony J. Robinson. My lovely wife is at Sarah Rad Robinson. If you're on TikTok, follow us there at The Real Estate Robinsons. And if you guys enjoyed this video, if you have any questions, drop them below. We'll do our best to get to them. But that is it for today, guys. I'm Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And we are
The Real Estate Robinsons.